some media rights deals that went down. Major League Baseball is, of course, officially making theirs. UFC has officially announced theirs, and then we'll talk about what's going on in the realm of professional wrestling in the next topic. But let's focus here on Major League Baseball and UFC. So, going into the season, it was reported that Major League Baseball and ESPN were breaking up. This was going to be the last year for MLB on ESPN. That is somewhat true because ESPN is mostly getting out of what they were covering. They're not going to be doing Sunday Night Baseball anymore, reportedly. They're not going to be doing the wild card game. They're going to be broadcasting some exclusive Major League Baseball games. But the biggest part here for them, not only did they acquire the NFL Network a couple weeks ago, but now they are acquiring MLB.TV, which for those of you that are fans of a team like the Cleveland Guardians, like we are in Cleveland, know that the MLB owns the Guardians TV rights. They put them on MLB.TV. That is now reportedly going to ESPN next year. And so for those of us like us that want to watch the Guardians games, that will be on the ESPN direct-to-consumer service, which we're going to talk about when we get to WWE. Not only that, but Peacock has grabbed reportedly Sunday Night Baseball and the wild card package that ESPN had, and Netflix has acquired the Home Run Derby. There's still reports out there that Apple TV, first it was dead, and they may not be dead. They may acquire Friday Night Baseball, may go to Peacock. That is still a little bit uncertain. But, Josh, real quick, I'll let you go first on this one. Your overall take on the potential new landscape of MLB.
It doesn't really make a big difference to me. I like watch some of the big games like Yankees, Red Sox. I generally will watch the Guardians, but like I'll tune in during postseason games. But like I'm not a big MLB fan anyway, so for me personally, it doesn't make a huge difference. Now, in terms of the UFC, that makes a big difference for me because I don't know if you know this, but I am a huge UFC fan.
Oh, I know that. That's why I included this in the rundown.
But I have refused to watch UFC pay-per-views for quite a while because I'm sorry, Dana White, but I already have an ESPN subscription. And then you're going to make me pay $80 on top of that?
Well, ESPN Plus, which is an extra $5.99, and then you had to pay the extra $80.
Yes. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. So I love that the UFC is moving off of ESPN, going to CBS, with most of their stuff going to Paramount Plus. They are moving away from, let's see, you watch it or any of those? What?
Out of these two, now Grandizer, I did agree. I used to watch Sunday Night Baseball back in the day when they had John Miller and Joe Morgan. Now it's completely watered down.
Yeah. I used to watch UFC basically almost every pay-per-view as often as I could anyway, but like I just decided it's not worth it to pay $80, especially because once the next pay-per-view comes around, I can just go back and watch the previous one when it becomes available on ESPN Plus.
Either that, or you can just go to StreamMe's or whatever you want to do and try to jank in, try to watch the stream that way.
Right. So I love that the UFC is moving off of this. I know we'll get more into this, but I don't know why WWE is going the exact opposite route and going, oh, you know what? Let's move our stuff to ESPN Plus.
Yeah, it's strange. We're going to talk about it. I want to address the baseball thing first. So I think the MLB media deal is actually bigger than what you're saying. I understand because you're not the biggest Major League Baseball fan, but let me explain to you why I think this media rights deal is setting up things for the future for not just Major League Baseball, but other sports as well. So when you look at the NFL right now, right, they have media rights contracts with CBS, Fox, NBC, ABC, but then they also have NFL Network, ESPN Plus, Peacock. YouTube, Netflix for these exclusive games, right? The NBA contract includes rights for Peacock exclusive games, NBC, ESPN, ABC, Amazon Prime. Now with Major League Baseball, you got to have NBC, you got to have Peacock, you got to have ESPN direct to consumer. You're going to have, Netflix to see the home run derby. What I think this is setting up as for us as sports fans, Josh, is eventually, and the big one's going to drop when the NFL media rights deal comes up in 2029. I think it is getting so much more expensive for us as sports fans to consume sports content that eventually what we're going to get is going to be a big streamer like Netflix or Amazon Prime coming in and saying you have to pay for each individual game on top of the paywall that we already have.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking forward to it. I can totally see it coming in the NFL, and it is making it so much harder. Whatever to the good old days, and we could turn on Channel 3 or Channel 5 or Channel 8 or Channel 19 and just watch the game. Now we got to have individual streaming services. Now, again, some things may cross over. NBC and Peacock now is going to have sports 52 weeks a year on a Sunday night. I like that. I think that's a really smart deal for NBC to get Sunday night football, Sunday night basketball, Sunday night baseball. But besides that, it's getting way too much, and this is not what streaming was made to do.
I agree. Let's see. He says, question, apologies if I was not clear. Sometimes we get hooked on watching sports on a certain night of the week. So with these new media moves, will you follow or no, and why not?
I mean, obviously, if you're a sports fan, you're going to watch the games when they're on. I think we all know football kind of lives now Thursday, Sunday, Monday, Saturday, obviously, if you include college. I will not be following the NBA 7 nights a week, even though it's going to be available 7 nights a week.
Yeah. Like I said, for a while, I tried to watch as many UFC pay-per-views as I could, but I just decided $80 was just way too expensive. I'm not doing that. And it sucks because there's some good pay-per-views, and I'm like, I really want to watch that. But
I think this deal for UFC is all about mainstream, and I love it. I've been saying it for years. They need to move off ESPN Plus and get, a streaming sort of service. I love this for UFC. They're going to have events on ESPN Plus as well.
Paramount
Plus as well, and regular CBS. I think more people are going to be watching the UFC more than ever. Saying that, though, it will be interesting to see if the numbers are what I predict they are. What happens if the UFC audience is maybe not as big as we all think? I think this is going to be a real test to that UFC argument.
Yeah. I've been wanting Dana White to bring the Octagon back to Cleveland. I was there for its only appearance here in Cleveland, September 3rd, 2016, UFC 203, Stipe Miocic against Alistair Overeem for the UFC Heavyweight Championship. You also had CM Punk versus Mickey Gall on that card. That's where CM Punk made his UFC debut. So that was an interesting fight to be in.
It lasted about 2 minutes. That's about CM Punk's UFC career.
Yes. But personally, I think this will make me want to watch UFC more.
I'll tell you right now, if it's available, if I know that there's a main event fight coming, and maybe they start the fights a little bit earlier, maybe that's part of this. Maybe they don't start it at 10 o'clock at night.
Right. I could see that. I mean, they sometimes do fight nights in the afternoons depending on where they are, because the Octagon goes all over the world. And, Dana White and President Trump are talking about the idea of doing a UFC card at the White House next year.
Yep, and it would reportedly be on CBS, which would be insane.
Yes. That is a shirt from my family shoe store, Marlou Shoes. It has a funny saying on the back. I can show that to you later, but that's what that is. But who knows what the fight card's going to be for that? I will definitely tune in and watch, not even because it's at the White House, just because it's the UFC. And I know the UFC is cage fighting, but the reason I love it so much is kind of the same reason I love WWE and AEW anyway, not WWE. But it's because you have so many different styles of fighters. You have submission artists, you have Muay Thai, you have Jiu-Jitsu, you have kickboxers, you have the guys that just want to stand and brawl, you have the wrestlers. There's so many different styles, and it creates really intriguing matchups. And you can get fights where, like, the champion is dominating, and then late in the 5th round, bang, the challenger hits him with a
that's hit. One of the reasons why I've been nervous to buy an $80 pay-per-view, because the main event could last 30 seconds. That was always my argument.
Yeah, I agree with you. But part of it, for me anyway, is like, yeah, I might be most excited about the main event, but whenever I pay for a pay-per-view, I'm always buying it for the main for the whole card.
Yeah.
There could be a fight earlier in the card that you're like, okay, that looks okay. And it turns out to be the best fight of the night.